Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. I'm excited to have Seth Price back again with us on our Monday marketing series. Seth is not only the founding managing partner of Price Benowitz, which is a multi-state practice that's grown to over 30 attorneys on the East Coast, practicing in Maryland, DC, and Virginia, but also the founder of Blue Shark Digital. And so Seth and I have had quite a few conversations about social media, and I think it's something that a lot of law firms feel that compelled to spend a ton of time on social media. And really, what we need to focus on with marketing, and what the theme of today's conversation is that there is the ROI you can expect out of social media and how much time you should be spending on it. And Seth, thank you so much for joining us today. I'm going to go ahead and share my webcam as well.
Hey, how are you? There you are.
Good. There we go. Yep. And so, this is a casual discussion. So I want everybody who is on the line with us today to really feel comfortable that they can, ask us questions and jump in here. So we've got just a couple slides, but I want to start off today's conversation with this poster right here, and that is that likes don't pay the bills, sales do. And so I always kind of have this. This is actually a poster that you can get up from Startup Vitamins. They've got great material for your office. But I really want to focus on the fact that social media is something, and to give you some background about Seth and myself, I've been teaching law firm marketing and coaching law firms for the last 12 years. And then Seth, why I love teaching these classes with him is because he's actually architected and scaled and built a law firm using digital marketing and all of the other different vehicles in a highly competitive practice area, both personal injury and criminal defense in a major metropolitan market. So I really encourage everybody to take advantage of the time that we have with Seth today. Type in your questions or enter them in, and I can also, if you'd like to talk to him live, we can bring you into the call. So, Seth, there's different social media channels. There is the Facebook and LinkedIn and Twitter, and then all of these other smaller sites like Yelp and Avo and the QA sites and things like that that you can use to promote your practice. And I know that you've grown your firm using a lot of digital marketing. But what would you say, is your own personal opinion of social, and how does it fit into your overall strategy for your firm? And has it changed from how you used to use it before to how you use it now?
I mean, social media means a lot of things to a lot of people. And I'll just start with a story. A client called the other day in a high-profile case. This person was a notorious person on social media. They've been on TV. They've been part of a TV show. They have an Instagram account that's through the freaking roof. And when it came to paying for their case, they're like, yeah, I have no money. And it really was reminiscent of what you just put up there a moment ago, which is it's great to be popular, but you have to be able to monetize it. One of the things I've focused on for ourselves in building the firm is how do we get ROI? And now that I have a digital marketing agency, each of our clients looks at us. We're not Scorpion or Fine Law where you have annual contracts. I'm like, everything's month to month. If you're not making money, you're going to leave. So to me, again, and we talked about this last week, everything that I focus on, nuts and bolts, for scaling the firm has been hardcore SEO and PPC and getting the phone to ring. And that has been in the B2C space for PI and criminal, and now a number of other practice areas, been very successful for us and something that has worked really well. So what about social? And again, social means a lot of things to a lot of people. And I put the social into different categories because when somebody says to me, what do you love? If somebody loves Twitter and they're going to use it all the time and build a following and a herd, great. There's a way to make $1 doing that. And if your life is Facebook and you're going to intertwine personal and business, and depending on how niche your market is, you can make a buck doing that as well. But what I have seen, and the downside of it is people feel like it's the place they need to be. That's been the biggest problem. And it's opened the doors to people selling social media packages. And we've talked about a little bit about this offline. I'm a big non-fan of that. I think that that is dangerous territory where people pay a lot of money because they're checking a box, and yet they're not getting any ROI from it. Because social, when done right, is genuine. When I see your posts, I see Chelsea's voice. I see certain lawyers that have a voice and they're saying something. But if you outsource this to a company that's outsourcing it to a person that's outsourcing it to a contractor, it's just a whole bunch of nothing. And what happens is you end up with a bunch of noise, not much there, and nothing that resonates into paying clients. And so for me, again, exceptions to every rule. There are people that have used targeting within Facebook and made great money in very specific niches. But for the average B2C player, business consumer player, PI, criminal, trust and estates, you have a very small geography, that the idea that social media is going to be the panacea to your fame and fortune generally is not the case, with exceptions. And it comes back down to, what do you love? If you really love creating your own genuine content, that's not what I'm talking about with social media packages. But if you're going to sort of outsource your voice, they can't really say anything that's meaningful. You're not going to have a tribe, and it's not going to mean anything. And so I separate those different elements from true social media, where you have a voice, particularly for a national practice where you can get people from anywhere. You can actually have a voice, people will resonate, you have an opinion and you don't suck. That's going to get you business. But just to be on social media for the sake of it, I think is a misnomer. It can lead to squandered resources.
Yeah, that's a great point. And it's that voice. It's that you can't outsource who you are. And so you look at the attorneys that have been really successful with it. Mitch Jackson, Jacob Stepanich in California for immigration, Morris Lilienthal in Alabama. It's that is a personality that people are attracted to, and that is a brand face for the law firm. And the social media.
I'm sorry, those people love it. You see Mitch and you see our friend in Alabama talking. This is their passion. It's their pleasure. You also have to be careful. Sometimes they're making a buck and sometimes they're not. I know Mitch has been very successful with it. I also know other people who are faces of Facebook Live online that probably aren't doing all that well. Some of it has to do with how much do you want to enjoy what you're doing, and how much of it is, is your market ripe for it? If you're in California, Texas, or Florida, maybe even Las Vegas, there's referral business coming in. If you're in Iowa, there's not a lot of cross-pollination. And so building a national herd in a B2C practice probably doesn't do you as well. Whereas if you're in California and you have a herd following you, you know what? Once a year, everybody knows somebody who's gotten injured in California, and they're going to send it your way. That gives you a better shot at monetizing that social component.
Yeah, and that's a great point. It's the difference between a major metro area or a rural area where your reach is just physically not as large. You don't have that same opportunity. And then also talking about Facebook Live and the posts that people are pouring all kinds of time into. I know that the law firms that I've spoken to, the ones that have had success with it, are coupling that with a lookalike audience campaign. They're boosting those Facebook Live videos. They're going back and they're using recordings on a YouTube channel and then putting advertising behind that. So it's not that you're just gonna, flood the market with content and have it magically start bringing, cases through the door. It's a combination of that digital strategy, the paid advertising on Facebook, boosting posts, things like that. So if you expect social media to show you a return, there's an investment of not just time, but also hard marketing dollars that I feel are required that happen, and proper management of it.
Right. So look, this is what one of my friends in the industry used to say. It's like, Facebook, Twitter, they are not, there's nothing social about it. It's a paid platform. If you leave your own personal Facebook account and you have a business or a business personal profile, and you want it to be seen outside of 1% of your catchment audience, you need to pay. It's pay to play. There's no other way to describe it. And that's how Facebook was just testifying in front of Congress. When there's not a a price tag on the service. Facebook is free. The audience itself is the product, and they make their money through advertisers. So if you were to use it, get rid of the facade that this is a free service. The only way to get your message out is paid through the commercial side. And that, again, like anything else, there are ways to do it. And but at that point, it's a paid service. You can compare your ROI to Facebook, to Google AdWords, which is very, very expensive. And depending, if you're in a market where AdWords has shut you out, in many markets, PI has gotten so expensive from clicks, smaller players, even the bigger players who are savvy, aren't buying those clicks. So what do? And Facebook is new. You can buy clicks rather cheap. The question is, are they converting to clients? When somebody's injured, when somebody's arrested, are they coming to Facebook to find that provider? Maybe, maybe not. But the clicks are cheap enough that you may or may not be able to get it, but it has to be tracked. It has to be measured. And if you're not doing that, then you're just pissing money away, because even though the clicks are cheap, they do add up. And you really need to look at it as a paid medium. There was a Texas firm that was way ahead of the curve on Facebook, and one of their marketing managers left and knocked on my door and was looking for a job and said, "Hey, we're doing really great stuff here." I was doing really great stuff here. We weren't paying for anything, and I was getting 10,000 views a month on Facebook and this and that. And I was like, this is too good to be true. So I called my friend who was a partner there. He said, "I don't know anything about this," but he put me on touch with their CMO, and he's like, no, what are you talking about? We're paying tens of thousands of dollars a month for Facebook. So it is not a panacea. It is something that has a time and place, particularly if you're in a market that you can segment your audience. That's where social becomes really powerful. If you're able to say, I need females 45 to 55 in certain mass tort areas. Let's say you're a family law lawyer. You can target education, location, age, all sorts of stuff that if there's a correlation, you can do amazing things of getting something in front of your audience. But for many people, it's just, hey, it's another paid service. And unless you can get that advantage by segmenting the audience, I just see it as cheaper clicks, but in the end, you're going to probably cost you as much or more, likely more, unless you're taking advantage of the segmentation options available.
Yeah, and have somebody who knows what they're doing. Like, I think one of the other areas, and we'll open the floor up to questions here in just a second, but one of the areas that I see happen, or the patterns that I see happen so often, is I have a nephew or a relative or someone that I know locally that's going to be managing my Facebook campaigns for me because they're really good at Facebook. And so now not only are you spending that money, but it's in the hands of someone. You're looking for somebody to be able to manage that, much like a PPC campaign, because it's essentially the same thing with just better segmentation, because you have so much information on the profiles of the people online.
Right. And that's it. So look, it's not that expensive generally. It can be managed decently. When you look at the scale and breadth of what most people are trying to do, it's not where I generally go with first dollar. You want to play with it and experiment, be ahead of the curve, great. But for the most part, with exceptions, I'll give you a story I tried. I was like, okay, trust in estates. It's usually people come to us online. They search for, they need a will, they need probate, whatever it is. I said, hey, there's a retirement community that's like several square miles. So I was able to target with both Facebook and with Google. I said, you know what? These guys all need wills. They're trying to figure out estate planning. If you're divorced, how the new spouse is going to do compared to the kids. That's a big issue that we see. And I was like, I'm just going to saturate this area with Facebook ads. I'm going to then retire because I'm going to do so well from this. I've cracked the code. And again, whenever you hear about marketing, whenever you hear about future tense, separate that. Listen for future tense. I'm going to do it. Will happen. All those things from I did it and I have proof of concept. So we did it and we put our ads out and we got zilcho. So is it possible I'd be able to tweak it further? Maybe. But what I found was people who need our services seek us out when they're ready to buy. Again, there are exceptions to every rule. There are people that do it well. But I have found that it is certainly something that is not, at least for us, has not been a central component to our success and our volume. It really has been tangential, and that overall, to date, if I had saved that paid marketing, I probably would be net ahead. That would keep experimenting, sort of like I'll dovetail before our first question. The golden goose is the emergency room, and it is really getting to the point where you get a call from a geofencer like every day. And I'm like, look, I'll wait for proof of concept. Once it's there, I'll jump in. But right now, it's gotten some bad press of recent weeks where people are like, yeah, I don't really like this. I don't want these third-party apps knowing exactly where I am. But the odds of you getting it close enough that you're going to know that that's an emergency room visitor with a sick relative versus the doctors, the nurses, the patients in the hospital, all those things going on, that you're going to get that exact right person. It's a great fairy tale. And again, I'm sure that there is somebody who has done it, made a buck. I assure you there's 20 to 1 people that have been taken and not gotten anything trying rather than actually succeeding in that particular spot.
Mm-hmm. Well, and that's just it. It's a constant trial and error and refinement of those strategies over and over and over again. So, and combination of other things like contests or charity events, or it's not. You have to be doing a lot of different things to find something that works all the time, and that is costly just as much as a digital campaign would be.
Well, so I remember early on, there was a consultant who I saw an amazing presentation. She was going to do a Facebook giveaway. We gave away a flip camera, so I'm dating this contest. And that was a big deal at the time, like $300 a flip camera. And people were liking us from all over the country, and we had all sorts of likes. And I sifted through, and I think we had 3 local likes in this contest. And the lady who won it was from Idaho or something. It's a national platform. Again, there's segmentation you can do that have advanced a great deal. But like anything else, it's a paid media. If it works, God bless, but track it, test it, A/B test it, and figure out what works. And if it works, build more. I just haven't seen massive success with that, with exceptions. Somebody in Texas where an entire town was affected by a leak of gas from a petroleum company. Awesome, right? You can geo-target, you can Facebook target. If you know where your clients are, you can do amazing things, or who they are. But for the average person, that's not necessarily the case. And for the average B2C law firm, you'll take anybody you can pay or anybody who has the right case. Unless you know this is my ideal demographic, it's harder to get the advantage of using social to get that client.
Excellent. Yep. And now I think it would be a good time for us to open it up to questions. So if you have a particular social media situation or something that you've tried that you have questions about, go ahead and enter that into the questions pane. Or if you'd like to raise your hand, I can go ahead and bring you into the call live. So please feel free to enter those in now, and then we'll send them over to Seth. Okay. And what would you say for an estate planning firm in a rural community, the combined budget for digital and social should be on a monthly basis, or a starter budget?
It's a tough question. My answer is the more the better. Like, you do something, it works, it moves to the next level. To me, $1 is like a basic WordPress website. If you really have $0, even a Wix website, get yourself a brochure presence. That's number 1 to me. It's not going to make you any money, but for referral people, they come to you and say, yes, this is where you are. You title tag it right. You get yourself indexed. Number 2 is, again, if you have more time than money, adding content. Content crushes it. So if you have a WordPress site, you get enough money, you get a couple grand, build a beautiful WordPress site, you then add content to it. That's number 2. Huge, right? So you add in content. Number 3, some authoritative links coming in. Again, more time than money, you do it yourself. You start to gain some money, you work with somebody to help you build that authority. If you're in a smaller market, hopefully there's not as much competition. But to me, the number 1 place you're going first is the web, where people are ready to buy. Like in theory, they've decided I need a will, I need an estate plan, or I'm in need of a probate attorney. There's no better ROI in my experience than being there. Again, more time than money. Use your, Facebook doesn't advocate for this. They want you to have a paid account. But if you're willing, again, you have more time than money, make your personal Facebook account both the face of your personal with some kid pictures, but also, what's going on in your business world. A real estate agent in my market, probably the same type of situation. He has his pictures of the kids playing hockey, and then he says, hey, if you're looking to buy a house, I'm there for you. Maybe 2 weeks later, I have a list of vendors who do everything from HVAC to plumbing to carpet. If you ever need anything, let me know. These are trusted people. He keeps the engagement. He doesn't flood them. But I would say that to me, social is not where you spend first dollar. So if you're like, hey, where do I get going? I think the thing to watch out for are social media packages and also SEO packages that are too inexpensive. From my point of view, from what I know about everything that we've done, I see a lot of people at the lower dollar, which are enticing because it's less money. You're like, I can't afford as much, who do nothing but host. And that's the frustration. I don't want to see people spending $1,700 on nonsense, essentially a website a month, when they really just need, when instead what they really need is to build a website that doesn't cost them anything month to month and save that money and do it right. Do some paid ads. If you only have $500 a month, rather than giving somebody for expensive hosting, buy $500 worth of paid ads. Test it, see how it works. But the idea that you would just buy a social media package and that's going to solve your problems, I think that's one of the worst things that you can do, particularly with $1.
And next question is there a perception generally out there that anything provided or presented on social media should be free, and that some people are turned off as something on social media is trying to drive business? Is there something to do that, or how do you overcome that you're actually there to drive business? So this question is, is there an assumption that things on social media are free? I think that when people reach out to an attorney, that unless you're saying, free consultation, or you're saying that, something that you're providing, maybe an open house or, a town hall style event, I could see the perception being that I'm going to get free legal advice out of that situation. But I don't think when you contact a business, you're expecting to pay.
Right. And I would go back to the person who just asked the question. So the trust and estates world is near and dear to my heart. My dad is Yale class of 59, he's still practicing. He's senior counsel to our firm with his own practice in New York. And so I've seen trust and estates my whole life. One of the things that I have seen both for him and now for Carrie Castellini, our partner at Price Meadows, who does trust and estates, has been, look, we optimize online. We do great there. She's built a network of B2B referrals from financial planners, right? AB, no doubt. But the getting in front of groups, there are groups that are in charge of sort of employee benefit, employment improvement, and getting in front of people to speak has been tremendous. So again, not online, but I think it goes to your question about free. I mean, you can give away the store. If you tell somebody everything they need to do for estate planning and they want to do it themselves, they weren't your client in the first place. They're going to an e-doc place, buying a form and doing it. You're out there looking for the person who values your services. And so for me, I take the same philosophy for my law firm as well as my marketing company. I'm an open book. I'll tell you, and Chelsea knows this, anything, the best I can do to improve your firm and your place. If at some point our services work for you, great. But if I can get you to the point where you do something without it making me $1, I'm fine with that. And I think at some level as a lawyer, if you get to that point where you say, hey, if somebody really just wants to do their will online, there are risks, right? They may not be right. Nobody's going to know it's a problem until it's too late, yada, yada. But you're out there to basically show the world you know what you're talking about and educate them. And that a certain percentage are going to say, yeah, I'm doing it myself. But a certain percentage are going to say, you know what, this is too complicated. I need that expertise. And I'm a big believer that within social, particularly from the trust and estates point of view, give away everything you can and all that information for free. And then when somebody's ready to buy, you're there for them. And I think that if you're that trusted person who has been as forthcoming, and you see it in the high-end social media, the Gary V's or the Neil Patels, if you follow either of those guys, these guys give away a ton of content and create a herd. You can do that. I think it's just much harder on social locally. If you're a small town in Texas, it's hard enough to get a large enough herd for it to matter. But that's where newsletters, even just your posting that you have, keeping in front of your people, because trust in estates is one of those areas we see. We'll get somebody who calls, and it's not unheard of for somebody to call back a year and a half later and say, I'm ready to do it. People are in denial. They don't want to face mortality and a bunch of other things. So there's a lot of hemming and hawing. It takes a lot to get somebody in. You just want to make sure that you're not like calling them every day and annoying them at the same time that you periodically, monthly, quarterly are like, oh yeah, I'm here. And if you need something, I'm there. And you don't even have to say bye now. They know who you are. If you can just be in front of them on a periodic basis, which is also one of the frustrations, I think, of the Facebook advertising. The retargeting is amazing. We didn't really touch on that, but it's cheap. If you're particularly in trust and estates or family law, the idea that you can continue after somebody visits your page, be an ad. If you're family law, you probably want to say, get ready to get divorced, because in case the spouse sees it, but let's take trust and estates. Just being there periodically, what I wish that Facebook would allow you to do, and they don't want to because they don't make as much money, is to only be seen on a periodic basis. Instead, it's like you turn on the spigot and boom, your ad appears every other ad. It's not a great user experience. I wish that we were able to sort of say, particularly trust and estates, hey, once every 2 weeks, let's have an ad appear. They may not see one, but they'll get it once a month. But the idea that they're forcing you to be to saturate somebody, it's good for criminal defense because they have to choose a lawyer within a couple of weeks. But in trust and estates, it's a very long sale process for estate planning, and the longer you can keep that tail, the better.
Yeah, agreed. And great point on the retargeting. Also, comment back from the same person who answered that or asked the question was that in general, it's a great platform for demonstrating your knowledge and expertise and thought leadership. So, from my perspective, it's making sure that when you're driving referrals through marketing, that everywhere that they could possibly see you is showing a positive track record and a positive, positive representation of your expertise, of that thought leadership, of who you are as an attorney and who your brand is, or the brand of the firm. And so the retargeting is a fantastic way and a great place to spend those marketing dollars on social media, far more effective, in my opinion, than a lot of the other vehicles that you see out there for both Google and for Facebook. And then also just everywhere that you could possibly be seen by your referral. Make sure that it's up to date. Make sure that you're using it effectively. Make sure that you've got some type of plan around the content that you're putting out there. So if we don't have any more questions, feel free to enter them in here as we're wrapping up. But Seth, if anyone would like to set up a one-on-one call with you, I've got your contact information on the screen. You can tell them maybe a little bit about Blue Shark and the way that you help firms evaluate their current marketing strategies and plans, and social and everything else fit into that.
Sure. Well, look, what we do, anybody who's interested, raise their hand. My cell is 347-661-9999, 347-661-9999. Email is easiest. But what we do, I'm SEO PPC first. So we'll evaluate a website and just say, hey, how authoritative is what's going on? My role has almost been as an interventionist over the social media packages, making somebody feel good. From my point of view, I like it because I feel like it's a bunch of assets that can be repurposed. And as I said, social is amazing. If you are genuine and you're out there and you're being personal and you're being able to connect with people, it is awesome. But the idea that you're going to spend money, write a check, have your credit card swiped, and it's going to have a meaningful impact is where I have a real problem. That said, as we talked about, as a paid ad, awesome. So I generally, again, this is open for anybody, even if you're like, hey, I just started my practice, where do I go? I love just, talking this stuff through, happy to sort of walk this through with you. But my 2 cents is sweat equity on social, use your personal platform that'll get a greater reach than will your business platform unless you pay, and take your paid resources and put that directly into organic and AdWords, Google paid search, that's where you're going to get the better return. But exceptions to every rule. I just had, just to give you one great exception, there's a B2B lawyer, because we talked almost about B2C today, but there's a B2B lawyer, Jonathan Pollard. If you're ever on LinkedIn, look him up. This guy has mastered LinkedIn better than anybody else I've seen. His average post is over 100 engagements, not views, but actual reactions. His good ones have thousands of likes and hundreds of comments. He has tapped into something and has built a whole practice around it. Other people, like that, Dan Schwartz is a defense employment lawyer in Connecticut, the CT employment lawyer blog. If you Google employment lawyer in Connecticut, this guy did what he loved and has crushed it. He has created a partnership at a big name firm that much of his book of business drives through what he's done online. And it dovetails with what he's doing. So there are but those guys are personally doing it. They're not outsourcing it. So what do? I'm happy to talk to people and sort of walk them through where are your resources being allocated now, where could they be, are we right for them? And I got to tell you, if you know me well enough, I'd say, more often than not, particularly for startups, I'm like, we're not right for you yet, but this particular provider or that particular provider would be right. And we're sort of happy to point you in the right direction, knowing that when the time is right, I'd rather, have somebody when they're ready for us than sort of have somebody who's not ready yet, who doesn't have the resources, and that they really need a different first step before they work with somebody like us.
Yeah, and coupling that effort of, if you are going to be on social media and be the brand ambassador for your firm, supporting that with a corresponding PPC or digital strategy that makes sense so that you're driving conversions.
Absolutely.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much for your time, Seth. It's a pleasure as always. This session has been recorded, so you'll see that link on our website and then also receive it in your email within the next 24 hours. Thank you to everybody who has joined us today. I encourage you to reach out to Seth with any additional questions that you might have. Thank you all so much, and have a great rest of your afternoon.
Thanks, Chelsea.
Bye, Seth.